What is up, y'all? What is up? Welcome to a quick episode of Lunch Break. Now, it has been almost 2 weeks since I've done one. I missed all of week 4, I think part of week 3. I don't know. It's been a blur. It's been so much going on. Life has been crazy. Work has been crazy. Lunch breaks. As you know, lunch breaks are hit or miss, and it's been a lot of misses lately. Personal life things have been going crazy. Everything's just been kind of its own thing. So haven't really had a chance to make one of these. Been watching football, haven't been as locked in as I normally am as well. So this is going to be kind of a quick ramble about the things I have been locked in on. A couple of things I've seen, thoughts as usual with this being a journal of sorts, like I've talked about multiple times. The biggest goal is for this to be a journal, talk through my thoughts, talk through what I'm noticing, what I'm seeing around the league, and kind of give my thoughts and opinions on all of those things. So we're going to go ahead and get started with what has happened this past Sunday. Thursday Night Football, I honestly don't remember a lot about it. I know that there was a game, of course. It was the 49ers and Mac Jones showing that, to me, the Shanahan system is where the successful quarterbacks are. You can argue and be like, no, Mac Jones is just really good. We've seen plenty of time that Mac's not that good, but in the Shanahan system, he does exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants a quarterback to be. And then the Rams, just wasn't a very good game from Matthew Stafford. He kind of let his team, I'm not going to say let his team down, but didn't do what you wanted him to do, I guess. You were expecting him to come in and be able to beat a backup quarterback, because that's what Mac Jones is in this league, a backup quarterback. But he wasn't able to. Puka Nacua is still showing that he probably is a top 3 to 5 wide receiver in the league. I would lean towards top 5, just because I still would have CD above him, even though his route running is something else. He can get open better than anybody. He's a tactician. He's very impressive. But yeah, Thursday Night Football, super quick thoughts there. Not really a lot to talk about. But let's go ahead and get into Sunday. We're going to start with, of course, the game I loved watching, the Cowboys dismantling the Jets. It feels good watching football when there doesn't seem to be a certain level of expectation. I think that's something as a fan that I just realized this season. I haven't felt this excited about watching the Cowboys play since probably Dak Prescott's rookie year, because I feel like it was the same thing. Tony Romo went down with an injury, and then suddenly you're sitting there thinking, oh, the season's lost. You got this 4th round pick coming in to play in place of Tony Romo, who is one of the greatest undrafted players to ever play in football. Not the greatest, but one of them. He is out, and it seems like his career is just injuries, and he got this 4th round pick filling in a quarterback, and then you never look back. Dak was amazing since his rookie year. He's had ups and downs, just like any quarterback will. Even Patrick Mahomes has his ups and downs, so any quarterback is going to fluctuate. And this is the first season since then, I feel like, that there's been no expectation on the Cowboys. They have the highest paid quarterback. They got rid of their star defensive player. They are sitting here, hiring a coach nobody believed in. People were expecting them to be one of the worst teams in the league, and their defense is showing that. One of the worst defenses in the league, but their offense is showing that it's one of, if not the best offense in the league. And Dak is playing like an MVP right now. And it's been so much fun to watch. Now, that was against the Jets. So as usual, I take it with a grain of salt. But he's been doing this week after week after week. His only bad performance was against the Bears. And that's because they got out of their game plan. The Bears were able to get the score up to the point that the Cowboys couldn't play in the flow of their offense. They had to just play catch up. And that's not a place you want to be with a quarterback like Dak Prescott. I talk about how he's top 10, and I stand by that. He's top 10 to me. My list has not changed much. There's been some fluctuations with my list that I made. I didn't end up posting it because, once again, things have been so crazy. But I did make a top 10 or a quarterback ranking list as a whole, and Dak made it into my top 10. He was between 10 and 12, and I said he was number 10 to me. And he still stands strong in that. He might even be moving up the rankings, but he's a top 10 quarterback he's not one of the top 5 quarterbacks that can play anyway. Dak can play within the compounds of his system, of his offense, of his flow. And he does that better than just about anyone in the league. But if you get him off kilter, if suddenly there's a 2-score lead, 3-score lead, that can get him set off where you kind of lose the game at that point. That's what happened with the Bears. But the rest of the games Dak has played have been phenomenal. Almost beat the Eagles, beat the Giants when his defense was giving him nothing to work with. Russell Wilson's best game in years, and probably his best last game he'll ever play. And then went into the Jets, went into MetLife and absolutely dismantled that defense with his wide receiver out. Turpin, his return man, is out. Multiple offensive linemen are out. He was missing everything basically. But him and Pickens and this kid that I've never heard of before, I can't even think of his name right now, that had a monster game. What the heck? It was absolutely insane. I think the wide receiver that I'm blanking on his name, him and Williams, was it Williams? The running back. I think Williams. Either way, they are the first Cowboys duo to ever have over 100 receiving and 100 rushing yards in one half at the same time. Emmitt Smith never did that. Michael Irving never did that. Dez and DeMarco Murray never did that. The list goes on of players. CeeDee Lamb never did that with Zeke, or Amari Cooper never did that with Zeke, I guess you should say, when Zeke was in his prime. But these two players, they're the first ones in Cowboys history to do that. Insane. So Dak has been absolutely amazing. And I've loved watching it because there are no expectations. We could win 5 games and I'd be like, this was a fun season. Wasn't the best season. Wish we would have won more games, but it was fun. There didn't feel as much anxiety, as much pressure. There wasn't as much shooting ourselves in the foot to lose. They're well coached. They're well game planned. It is so much fun to watch. And they didn't take their opponent lightly. Even with all these injuries, they said, no, we're not letting up. We're going to win this game. And now they go into Washington. That makes me a little bit more nervous because that pass rush Washington has, or is it, no, it's Washington, it's Carolina first, right? Yeah, it's Carolina. Same thing. They shouldn't let them up lightly, and then it'll be Washington. That Washington game, if those linemen aren't back, at least a couple of them, makes me a little scared. And I hope Dak can just get out of there healthy. But this next game against Carolina will be another one where it's like, don't let up. Don't take it easy because it's Carolina. You saw what Rico Dowell did. He's going to want to run all over your defense. Be careful. Be mindful. So it's really cool to see. Next game I'll kind of harp on. I didn't watch this one because I don't like the Eagles and don't care to watch it. But the Eagles lost. And I think it kind of highlighted the issues that team has where they were undefeated. And you can sit here all day and you can say, but Jalen Hurts wins games. Jalen Hurts wins games. I still think Jalen Hurts is probably top 5, 6, 7 quarterback in the league. But as he's done more, he's moved down my list a little bit. I was really high on him after week 1. I came out and I said, I feel like it's hard to put, after your big 3, and then you have number 4, you may have Joe Burrow, all these injuries, it's hard to say. It's hard to come up with someone after that. I'm starting to build a list, Before his offensive lineman went out, I know, if man over here, if he had his offensive lineman back, Justin Herbert looked really good up until he lost his tackles. And I do think there's something to say about that when it comes to Justin Herbert's ability, where he needs things to be better around him than others might. Dak Prescott didn't have his linemen and still went out there and shredded, but Justin Herbert's showing his talent. I could probably go through the line. Baker Mayfield is showing he's a difference maker. He lost to the Eagles, but that was, the Eagles won off of their defense more than anything. And I know Baker threw away that game, but he's also the reason why they were in striking distance to try to come back and win. I actually have the list here in front of me I can look at. So I had Jalen on the same level as Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow. I think I would still hold that true. So that would be Lamar, Josh, and Patrick ahead of him, and then have him on the same lane, which is like tier 2 of Joe, Justin, and Baker. And I feel like I'd probably put him on the lower end of that now. I think I had him right behind Joe, but I think I'd put him behind Baker if I were actually putting them in order. So I think I'd go Lamar, Josh, Patrick, Joe, Baker, Jalen, Justin, or Justin, Jalen. I don't know. Those are interchangeable. And he's starting to move down my list more and more, which I really did not expect that to be the case. I thought he was going to keep it going, but the offense has been stagnant. He's done what he needs to win, quote unquote. But this game he lost to a Denver Broncos team that has a great defense, but a quarterback that couldn't get anything done. Bo Nix looked awful, but he was still able to pull out that victory because the Eagles' offense looked anemic. There were plays, there was that throw to A.J. Brown that should have sealed everything. A.J. Brown started to jog, and he can sit here and say it was a missed throw. A.J. Brown slowed down. If he kept running, that ball was probably close to where it needed to be, where A.J. could adjust to it. But instead he slowed down, and then by the time he realized where the ball was, it was too late. So he gave up on the play, and Jalen was trying to give him a chance to be a game changer. A clip's going around as well about that game-winning or potential game-winning Hail Mary. You could make an argument that is it Smith? Devontae Smith, yeah. You could make an argument Devontae Smith had that ball. He could have caught that if A.J. Brown didn't jump in and try to make the play as well. Now I get it. You want to be in position to catch it. You want to be in the position to win. But if you see Devontae in front of you, I feel like you want to try to box out and try to keep defenders away more than you want to be the one to jump up, because then your hands are on his hands and that causes the incompletion. You can make an argument that A.J. Brown kind of cost Devontae Smith that game-winning catch. Now that could have been, or he could have dropped the ball anyway. We have no way of knowing. But the Eagles' offense is so anemic that is showing the weakness of that team. They didn't run the ball at all. They had barely any rush attempts, barely anything was going their way against the Broncos. And that could cause a skid. They went on there, a lot of people call it a supernatural funk, where out of nowhere they just started losing games left, right, and center. They could fall into that again if they're not careful. I still trust Jalen Hurts' leadership, but I think we're starting to see the limitations Jalen has as a quarterback, where when everything's not going, I don't want to say perfect around him, but he doesn't have this God squad around him. Things are starting to fall off, and he still has those weapons. So it's weird. It's weird. I think will figure it out, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we find out. Obviously, I hope they don't figure it out, because I'll never like the Eagles. Everyone has that team that they just will never be able to stand. I was thinking about it the other day. And, this is a question I could pose to anyone that may be watching it. I would love to get your opinion. Everyone who is a team of an NFL team, right? They have all of their division rivals, and they obviously don't want to see any of them succeed. They would much rather see their team succeed. Or if their team's not succeeding, I want y'all to struggle with me. You see a lot of people that are like, as a this fan, I'm rooting for the other people in my division to win. Well, I don't care about bringing the title home to the division. I don't care about that. Keep it in the AFC. I don't care about that. I don't want the Eagles to keep winning Super Bowls, because me as a fan of the Cowboys and the Ravens, but as a fan of the Cowboys, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that at all. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, which team in my division would I rather see be successful? And I found myself thinking, I feel like the Giants. I don't want any of them to succeed, but if Jackson Dart ends up being something and Cam Scatterbo keeps being an absolute menace on the field, I would rather that be happening in New York than in, Washington, even though they have Jaden Daniels, but we'll see about that. I'd rather that be happening in New York than in Philadelphia. I don't want it happening in general, but when Eli Manning won that Super Bowl against Tom Brady, I was like, oh, good for Eli. That's cool. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was fuming. I said, Brady, you couldn't pull that out. Mahomes, you couldn't stop them, really? What are we doing here? That's not what I want to see. So I definitely want to pose that to y'all if anyone, once again, is watching. If you want to say in the comments, what team are you a fan of? And if one of your division rivals had to be successful, which one would you choose, even if reluctant? You'd say, I'd much rather this fan base get one than having to listen to, I don't know, the 49ers fans keep being absolute obnoxious. Ugh, So that's just kind of a side question that I was thinking about. So Eagles, I don't want them to figure it out, but I feel like they will. They'll make the playoffs. I doubt they're going to miss the playoffs. They probably will win the division. We'll see, but they'll figure it out. We'll go from there. Next thing to ramble about real quick, Baker Mayfield and Emeka Ibuka. I love when I have takes that are 100% correct. I never expect them to happen so quickly, but I love when I have takes that end up being 100% correct because it makes me feel like I know what I'm talking about. And that take is that I mentioned week 1 that I thought Emeka Ibuka was going to be a starting wide receiver 1 in this league. He was a wide receiver 2 at Ohio State, but that's just because he was alongside arguably the most talented wide receiver that we've seen come into college football at such a young age, 17, 18 years old. So yeah, he was a wide receiver 2 in that scenario, but he was still phenomenal. And he fell to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who picked him up, even though they had 2 wide receivers. They knew Chris Godwin was going to be injured, and he's back now, but he's still kind of slowly getting back to himself. It's going to take some time. And now Mike Evans is injured. And so Emeka Ibuka got thrown into the wide receiver 1 slot and put up like 175 yards and a touchdown and helped lead his team to a comeback victory. Tampa Bay needs to stop having to just come back all the time. They need to have some solid wins, not come back and hit a field goal to win, come back and scored a touchdown to win, come back and did this to win. We need to start having some solid wins here, Baker. But seeing the connection that him and Ibuka had, seeing the fact that they were without their starting running back in Bucky Irving, they were without Mike Evans, their reliable 1,000-yard receiver constantly. They were without all of these pieces, and they still came out and were successful. That's a big deal. And I think that shows that they will at any time have 2 to 3 wide receiver 1s on their team. Chris Godwin, when healthy and once he gets back in the swing of things, showed he could be a wide receiver 1. Mike Evans, we know, is a wide receiver 1. And Emeka Ibuka has the talent to be a wide receiver 1. There's no realm when you have 3 wide receivers like that. You should be able to score at will because there will always be a mismatch. There will always be that player that, suddenly he gets covered by a linebacker and that's an easy in route. That's an easy slant. Suddenly he's getting covered by the slot corner and he's bigger than him. Suddenly he's covered by the outside linebacker and he's just faster than him. He's slipping in behind coverages. You have the 2 deep routes and then 1 shallow. Maybe the deep route, because they cheated inside on the shallow, the deep route's open. They should be able to give each other separation to the point that they should score at will when everyone's back and healthy. But until then, Emeka Ibuka has showed that he could be the best receiver on this team. I think he has that potential. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I think he should win Offensive Rookie of the Year so far. If I were to give an award within 5 weeks, he'd be my Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure. You have some running backs that have been impressive. Marion Hampton's figuring it out. Travion Henderson, if you give him the ball, does pretty well. But I think consistently, Emeka Ibuka should be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And he showed that he could be the best wide receiver on this already talented wide receiver core of the Buccaneers. As they came back to win, they got to start putting games away sooner and not have to keep making comebacks. But they're a very impressive team. Next thing to talk about, this one I'm not going to say much on, but as a Ravens fan, I just want to come out and say it. I never want to hear somebody say Lamar Jackson doesn't deserve his MVPs again. Lamar Jackson was supposed to be on the most loaded roster, most talented squad, best defense, best offense. Should be foolproof to get this done. And then suddenly the defense is struggling, but the offense is cooking and firing on all cylinders. They're like, okay, well, the defense has a lot of injuries. The defense is really bad. Look at the defensive coordinator, ask some questions. What do we need to change? But offensively, once again, it's a paint by numbers. You have one of the best running backs in the NFL. You have a good offensive line. You have the weapons you need. Lamar Jackson just needs to not mess it up. Lamar missed 1 game. He got absolutely demolished for the Chiefs game, which he did not play well. He did not play well at all. And he missed 1 game. And they lost to the Houston Texans. What was it, 44-10? The Ravens defense has already given up more points than I think it was their 2006 defense gave up an entire 16-game season. And they've done that in 5 games. I think they did that in 4 games in 2 quarters, if I read that correctly. They gave up more points in 4 games and 2 or 3 quarters than their 06 defense with Ray Lewis, with obviously Hall of Famers, gave up in an entire season. Lamar is the reason this team has a heartbeat. And at this point, they're 1-4, creeping up on 1-5. I don't know how much of a pulse they really have, because if the Texans did that to them, what are the Rams going to do to them? After losing a heartbreaking game against the 49ers, they might put up 50. Matthew Stafford might go for 3 touchdowns. They may run the ball over the Ravens defense, pass the ball over them. Puka Nacua might have a 200-yard game. I don't know what's going to happen. It's not going to be pretty. And then at 1-5, what do? Run the table when you come back from the bye week? Hope Lamar Jackson can put a cape on. He can definitely get some wins. Suddenly they're 2-5, 3-5, 4-5, 5-5. He can get them positive. But you want him to run the cape or run the table starting week 6, and every day from week 6 to week 17, week 18 is make or break. I just don't want to hear it anymore. Lamar Jackson is clearly the MVP of his team, just like how Josh Allen is clearly the MVP of his team. Patrick Mahomes, I would argue, is the MVP of his team. I know people will say the defense. Doesn't matter how much the defense makes stops if your offense can't score. And Patrick Mahomes is the only reason that offense scores. Joe Burrow has proven he's the MVP of his team. He's been out, and suddenly his 2 star wide receivers can't do much. This week, Jamar Chase had a massive game, but that's gonna be hit or miss. And you can kind of go down that line. You can really see the value a quarterback holds based on if they were out, what is this team going to do? And sometimes you get a real life example of that, like losing to the Houston Texans, a game that I feel like if Lamar was there, they would have won. Unfortunately, it would have been a shootout more than it should have been. Lamar deserves all of his MVP credits, and anyone who disagrees is just trying to be different to be different. Okay, continuing down the list super quick. Some of these I'm just going to do a quick hit on. Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, that was a terrible loss to the Titans. The fact that running back just get in the end zone. Everyone's been saying it. Players have been saying it. Coaches have been saying it. Media personalities have been saying it. Just get in the end zone. That's all you have to do. Get in the end zone. What is the point? Get in the end zone. You can celebrate all you want after. Get the touchdown. Because now you should be benched. You should be done for the season. Or if you're coming in, it's going to be on just to give the rookie running back a break. What are we doing? Get in the end zone. You lost your team the game. That's embarrassing. Can't have that. Continuing on, any other games that I really want to touch on? Not a lot. The Lions continue to be the Lions. They're rolling. Geno Smith doesn't look good. He is plummeting down my quarterback rankings for sure. So the Raiders looked really bad. The Dolphins blew a game against the Panthers. That's disappointing. So let's just go ahead and transition to the Sunday night game and then quickly talk about tonight's game, and then we will call it a day. So Sunday night, Drake May had a coming out party. If you just look at the stats, they look fine. Fantasy point wise, didn't do much. He was fine on paper. Watching him on screen, Drake May single-handedly made plays that propelled the New England Patriots to a victory. The first half was the sloppiest football you'll ever see. Fumble, 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 interception, fumble, fumble. It was just turnover after turnover after turnover, to the point that the most exciting play was when a fan caught a ball from Josh Allen and then ran all the way out of the stadium. That was the most exciting play that happened in the first half. I think the score was 13-10? Something like that at halftime. It was ugly football. Absolutely ugly. Second half, things started come together. Points were scored. It was back and forth. It was 20-20. Drake May made plays he needed to get him in field goal position. The defense did what they needed to stop Josh Allen. Drake May showed that he has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback. He's still not there yet, but he has all the tools you look for to get into that upper echelon, to get in the Jordan Love conversations, in the, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, who do I have right there? Jaden Daniels, which is one of his draft mates. Those are the conversations he's trying to get into. I think he has the potential to get even higher than that. But right now, that's the direction he's working. You got to take those baby steps. So Drake May showed that he has the talent needed to be able to be a really good quarterback for the Patriots. Now, he's never going to be the greatest Patriot quarterback of all time. It's never going to happen. That's Tom Brady, and he's not about to be the GOAT. But he's shown that he can still be one of their Ring of Honor quarterbacks. He can be put in their Patriots Hall of Fame one day. He just has to keep it up. Keep the momentum, keep it moving, keep connecting with Hunter Henry, keep connecting with your talented wide receiver core. They actually have a little bit of talent, which they did not have before. They got booty. Better watch out. They got booty. That's all I'm saying. Do they have booty? Who has booty? I just wanted to say, yeah, no, they got booty. They got Diggs and booty. Digging and booty. Crazy. Anyway, so they actually have a talented wide receiver core, and the Patriots are showing that they can be competitive this year. Now, are they going to make the playoffs? I don't know. Probably not. But they are making the plays they need to and showing the improvement that you're looking for, especially bringing in a new head coach and a really, really good new head coach at that. So I think the Patriots are going to be a problem for that division years to come. And the Bills need to figure it out. They can't keep just resting on their laurels of, well, the division's not good. The division has one other person that's good. You're right. The Jets will never be good. The Dolphins are a laughingstock. But your war with the Patriots is something, and that's going to happen for years. So you can't just sit back and just be like, oh, the division's easy. It's not easy anymore. The Patriots are going to fight for that division for years to come. You better figure it out. So all in all, the game wasn't too exciting. Just watching Drake May kind of have a come-out party was really exciting to see. So last but not least, we'll quickly talk about the Monday Night Football game. I don't think it'll be that exciting. I know a lot of people are hyping up the idea of Jacksonville and their defense against the Kansas City Chiefs and their defense. That's why I don't think it's that exciting, because I think it's going to come out to a sloppy game of football, 13-10, 17-13. I think it's going to be ugly. I don't foresee a shootout. Now, maybe it will be, but I don't think you're ever going to get a shootout with Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. So either the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points and the Jaguars won't keep up, or it's going to be a defensive-minded battle, which I think will get kind of ugly and not be that fun to watch. I will still take the Chiefs to win. I think the Chiefs at this point feel the pressure of every game needing to be a win with how much they struggled at the beginning. And the Jaguars, I don't think have that level of championship pressure or even expectation. So I feel like their players are going to come out a little bit more flat, or at least the Chiefs are going to come out a lot sharper. And that's going to cause them some issues. Defensively, I think they're going to cause some turnovers. They're going to cause a lot of negative plays. And then offensively, I think the Chiefs will do just enough to get it done like they always do. It's not going to be pretty. I think they're going to show that the Ravens defense is just that bad, and they're not actually out of their offensive funk. They just had 1 week of reprieve, and then suddenly they're right back to struggling. So I'm still going to take the Chiefs to win. I'm leaning towards it being an ugly game, especially because the Jags defense has actually been pretty good this year. But if the Jags defense kind of regresses, or Patrick Mahomes puts on the cape, that's where you can kind of see that big jump and instead see a massive game from them. So I'm taking 17-13 Chiefs. 17-13 I think is the final score there. And we're going to go from there. So that's all I have. Like I said, should be a quick one. Hopefully it was quick. Hopefully I didn't get sidetracked and talk too much. But I will be back probably Thursday, just because Friday I have some other things going on where I won't have my lunch break freedom. So I'll probably come back Thursday. You know, I can preview the Thursday night football game, talk about the week ahead, and we're going to go from there. So hopefully I can get back to this being consistent. Things have just been a little wonky, but again, thanks for hanging out with me on my lunch break, and I will talk to y'all next time. Hope your fantasy football team did well. You know, my team's 5-0 now, or about to be 5-0. It's all but settled. Team hasn't lost. But if you're a sports bettor, I hope your parlays hit. And I will talk to y'all soon. See ya.